generations to come.
And welcome to another edition of the Thoroughbred Daily News Writers Room podcast. My name is Bill Finley. I'm a correspondent for the Thoroughbred Daily News. I also work on Sirius Radio doing horse racing work.
And it's a good radio show. I'm Randy Moss with NBC Sports, here with all my paperwork. Ready to roll, just like Zoe.
I'm ready. Zoe Cadman here with First Racing. I've made it to Kentucky. I did not break down on the way here. Doodle is quite happy. I am in my good friend Alice Empson's house, so the palatial Empson Resort here, and I am ready to roll. I'm excited for the Keeneland sale, actually.
Doodle made it?
Doodle made it. I think he's actually outside sunbathing right now.
And you didn't get your car towed away in Utah or something this time, right?
My car's still actually in Las Vegas having a great time. I bought another car. It's a long story.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, plenty of racing action last weekend, and the two big races were for the older horses getting ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic. The first was the Pacific Classic that was on Saturday at Del Mar. And we really topsy-turvy events with this. First, we got all excited that Adair Manor was going to enter in the race for good reason. She's a tremendous filly. And unfortunately, she had a minor setback, and Bob Baffert didn't feel comfortable running her. What was left, honestly, this isn't an indictment of the Pacific Classic or Del Mar. It just tells the story of what's going on in racing. This race did not have much in the way of quality. It was won by a horse by the name of Mixto, who was 1 for 13 lifetime and got beat in the Pleasanton Mile in his prior start. And the reason why I say what I said is that every horse in the world retired last year. And this is what we're left with. The older horse division has been decimated, and we don't have Brandy's favorite horse, Senior Buscador, running in the Pacific Classic. White Barrio, I have no idea whatever happened to him. So anyways, I think this is a division that really needs some help. I don't know what the answer is, but nonetheless, Mixto winning the Pacific Classic.
Yeah, it was a pretty nondescript running of the Pacific Classic once Adair Manor scratched. Adair Manor, by the way, she's okay. She's a very nervous type filly to begin with. And horse racing people will know what this means. She tied up pretty badly in the days leading up to the Pacific Classic. So they wanted to take no chances with her, but she'll be just fine for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Look, right now, I would say on the West Coast, Senior Buscador and Muth might be the two best candidates for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Muth won this weekend in the Shared Belief Stakes at Del Mar. He made his comeback in that race. It's kind of a workmanlike win, but he looked pretty good, and he's trending in the right direction for Bob Baffert. But yeah, the Pacific Classic, Mixto, he was 22-1. When you look at the horses that were left after Adair Manor, there were a lot of horses that had been consistent 98, 99 buyers. Mixto wasn't one of them. He was one of the ones that was a little bit lower. But hey, Kyle Fry, good ride, and Mixto managed to get the job done anyway. Zoe?
Yeah, Kyle Frey's having a really, really good meet. That was his second graded stakes on the card. He took down the Del Mar handicap earlier in the card aboard Gold Phoenix for Phil D'Amato. So a terrific ride by him, Mixto, son of Good Magic. We've heard a lot about Good Magic, so that's good. It did take him 7 tries to break his maiden. So, good for them. Can't take anything away from him. He beat all the rest of them. Dr. Venkman was a bit of a disappointment. He was the favorite. Got a little bit sandwiched turning for home, had to alter course. I'm not sure he was actually ever going to get to the winner, Mixto. So we'll see where Dr. Venkman shows up. Reincarnate for Bob. He's really just a horse. So, yeah, it was definitely a disappointing race for me. It was a good betting race if you were gambling. And if you had Mixto, hey, well done to you. But other than that, I'm not sure we're going to see any great champions coming out of there.
Well, we may not see any horses come out of the Jockey Club Gold Cup and go on to victory in the Breeders' Cup Classic either. Jockey Club Gold Cup was run Sunday at Saratoga. And again, nice horses. Arthur's Ride looked so good winning the Whitney. He was a deserving favorite, but no star power. Arthur's Ride was the closest thing to it, and he did not run well. He just stopped in the middle of the stretch and ran 5th. The winner is Highland Falls, trained by Brad Cox, ridden by Flavian Pratt, who was one of the big stories of the Saratoga meet with what he did there. But, again, I'm sure there are better horses out there than the ones that ran in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. But I feel bad for Naira. They've tried very hard to make this race work because it was before the Breeders' Cup. It was the most important race in the country. And now in this Breeders' Cup era where everybody wants 8 weeks off in between starts, it just doesn't really have a place on the calendar. So I hope they can find a way to fix that, Randy.
If there are better horses on the East Coast for the Breeders' Cup Classic, I don't know who they are because pretty much all of them, I think, and maybe I'm missing somebody, were in this particular race. Arthur's Ride was a disappointment. But look, I mean, nowadays in thoroughbred racing, when you have a horse like Arthur's Ride that had come off really, really fast back-to-back wins and then came back in a spot that a lot of trainers may have skipped after those two really, really fast races, meaning the Jockey Club Gold Cup. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Arthur's Ride is going to regress a little bit in that spot. And now they're giving him plenty of time to come back. They're going to train him up to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Look, to begin with, Arthur's Ride had the really fast win in Kentucky, right? Like a 111 buyer or something like that. And so then they penciled in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And as Glassman told you on the podcast, right, he asked Bill, Bill said, we're going to give him a prep race for the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Oh, what's that going to be? It's going to be the Whitney. And I don't think Mott or anyone expected Arthur's Ride to run as huge a race in the Whitney as he actually ran. And in hindsight, it probably took a little wind out of his sails for the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So that doesn't really bother me. Highland Falls ran a big race at Oaklawn, big number to run second in the Oaklawn Handicap to Skippy Longstocking, underachieved in a couple of spots after that, bounced back to his best form. He would have to be one of the top 10 Breeders' Cup Classic contenders, I would think. Tappet Trice did the Tappet Trice thing. Looks good one time. And then, he's a no-show the next time. He just can't rely at all on Tappet Trice. One final note about the Classic division. It's looking to me more and more like it's going to come down between the 3-year-olds and the Japanese horses. The Japanese horses did so well at Del Mar the last time the Breeders' Cup was run out there. And they've sort of been gearing up for that. And right now for the Breeders' Cup Classic, laying in wait and awaiting their final prep race, Forever Young, Derma Sotogake, Ushpa Tesoro. I mean, 3 horses that would be leading candidates on paper, and they're going to really be primed for the Breeders' Cup Classic at Del Mar.
Whichever way you look at it, the Classic's going to be a full field and a very good race, especially if all of those horses come up. And it's kind of a tight track at Del Mar. It's going to be a very, very good race indeed. Let's get back to the Gold Cup. Win and you're in, right? Highland Falls by Curlin out of Round Pond. So he's bred all up, down, and sideways to get the distance. And how about we talk about the ride that Pratt put on Highland Falls? I mean, we're going to talk about Pratt a lot in this podcast, but that has to be one of the best rides I've ever seen him put on a horse. Breaks inside of Arthur's Ride. He knows the only way to beat Arthur's Ride is to go after him. So he sends his horse just enough to make Arthur's Ride work hard enough to get in front of him. So he did. He gets in front. And rather than just be content with sitting on his hip, Flavian's like, oh, no, if I'm going to beat this guy, I've got to look him in the eye. So they go head and head down the backside in 47-3, which wasn't like 45 and change. They're not going crazy. But he knew that his horse could gallop and stay the distance. And if he got close to Arthur's Ride, he could probably not only beat him, but win the race. For my mind, it was an absolutely brilliant tactical ride by Pratt. And probably one of the best rides, other than the hopeful that we'll get to in just a moment, that we've seen Pratt give all summer. That was masterful because he was not on the best horse, but he rode him to win the race.
The richest race in the country that is neither a Breeders' Cup or Triple Crown race is the Nashville Derby. He ran it on Saturday at Kentucky Downs, 3.1 million. I've said this before. I guarantee you they added that 1.1 so that they would be richer than the Gulfstream Park Pegasus at 3 million. But that's brilliant because now they can say we have the richest race on the calendar. I got to think there's some European trainers who are kicking themselves for not coming over for this race. The horse that won it is a nice horse, Bellum Justin. but he was second in a Group 3 in his previous race. This is serious money. And it was just begging. They're just begging for somebody to take it down and bring it back to Europe. And now he doesn't run for the full purse because he's not a Kentucky bred. However, even because he doesn't get part of the Kentucky bred thoroughbred development money, he still made $1.05 million for his owners. It would have taken him 10 years in Great Britain to make that kind of money, being the kind of horse he is. So I think that more European people are going to have to look at this and start circling Kentucky Downs on their calendars. Zoe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and if you watch a race, if you want to look up the proverbial, and this is no slight on Frankie Dettori because he is brilliant and he did his job. If you want to look up steering job on how to win a race on a horse that is so much the best, it's not even funny, look up Bellum Justin and watch his race. Broke just in a tangle, dead last, and he literally drug Frankie through the field the first half mile before they even went up the hill. Just drug him up into contention. He was sitting fourth going up the hill after breaking last and just came home so quickly. Like, it was just watching him throughout the race. You're like, how's this horse going to lose this race? And yes, he's a Grade 3 winner at best, but certainly not Kentucky Downs. He looked amazing there. A tip of the hat to Carson's Run, who ran a very gallant second, but Dettori got the jump on him. He was never going to catch the winner. So definitely a very good run by Bellum Justin. Do you know what that means in Latin?
No.
Just war. So I thought, well, it's got to be by Warfront, right? No, it's by Sea the Stars.
Zoe challenging Randy and going down the rabbit hole contest here. She wins
Latin
this round.
is a lot to be desired. My Latin is about this much here. Right? Okay. Carson's Run's the best 3-year-old turf horse in America, but American turf 3-year-olds are typically not all that strong, which is why Charlie Appleby, year to year comes over here with his 3-year-olds and tends to dominate those races like the Saratoga Derby and the Belmont Derby and races like that. But how good does this make City of Troy look?
Yeah.
Bellum Justin ran in the Epsom Derby and got drilled. I think he got beat 13 lengths by City of Troy in that race. So, yeah, I mean, it's just another example of how much better the European turf horses are typically than American turf horses. This horse is a Group 3 horse in Europe, and he comes over and beats our best 3-year-olds pretty handily. I had a chance to speak to jockey agent Ron Anderson just prior to the Kentucky Downs meet, and he was shipping both Joel Rosario and Frankie Dettori to Kentucky Downs. And he said Dettori was very excited about the meet. Ron was really excited about the prospects of both of his jockeys. Rosario hasn't started off very well. He's 0 for 17 right now, but Frankie Dettori and Jose Ortiz have both won 5 races to top the standings right now at Kentucky Downs. So Dettori is off to a fast start, and it's because of mounts like this.
How much money has he made in 5 wins? Just throw it out there.
One moment, please. He has made $1.56 million compared to just a little over $1 million for Jose Ortiz. 18 mounts, $1.5 million.
Not bad at all. Hey, you mentioned City of Troy real quickly. Do you know what the plan with him is? I was really interested to listen to an interview with Aidan O'Brien the other day. On September the 22nd, they're going to fly a plane over to Southall, which would probably be like the most American dirt kind of racetrack that they have in England. They're flying their American starting gate over on the private plane from Ballydoyle, as well as 4 or 5 other horses. And they're going to give him a mock gallop out of the gate around Southall Racecourse in preparation for the Breeders' Cup Classic.
A simulated race on dirt. Interesting. Now, all these, a lot of these Coolmore horses, some of them have run really well in the Classic. Most of them have completely laid eggs because you look at their pedigree and their Sadler's Wells and Dubawis and Galileos, and you can just draw a line through those horses on the dirt. But here we've got to justify.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So it's a completely different scenario when they bring this horse over, as long as he gets accustomed to kickback, like they're going to obviously try to get him accustomed to. Wow.
Classic for the ages. Could well be. Do want to remind you that the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. Some exciting updates to the September catalog came out of this weekend's graded stakes. Listen to this. Hip 1301 from Farfellow Farms got a big update when his half-brother Mixto, we already mentioned him, he took down the Grade 1 Pacific Classic on Saturday. Hip 358, who will sell with Wednesday, saw her half-sister, her half-brilliant half-sister Brightwork, win the Grade 3 Prioress Stakes at Saratoga. She was impressive. And across the pond, Ides of March became a dominating Group 3 winner at the Curragh. And her full sister will sell with Denali Stud as hip number 148. Great results for this year's September yearlings out of the weekend's racing. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the management and staff of Keeneland, I would like to welcome you to the September yearling sale. Good to have you back with us.
The energy at Keeneland Book 1 is unlike any other sale that you'll go to.
It is the marketplace.
The center of the horse universe.
It's electric. You can't replicate the urgency that's at Keeneland September.
Quality in quantity.
Keeneland September Book 1, every breeder's dream.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Stone Street Bred and Raised. Over the past couple of weeks, we have looked a lot at their 14 Book 1 horses. I still can't get my head around that, 14. Now let's take a look at a couple of good-looking yearlings in Book 2. Hip number 449 is a filly by Charlatan out of Imaluka from the family of Dortmund, Champion Lakeville Miss, and Magambo. Now take a good look at this filly. She's got the size and scope of her sire. It's really hard to believe that she's an April 29th foal as she struts her stuff right here. She looks really, really good. Next up is Hip 754, a filly by More Than Ready out of Conquest Serenade, whose dam is a half-sister to Canadian Horse of the Year and champion sprinter Fatal Bullet. And look at that hip on her, guys. She would make J-Lo jealous with that massive hip on her. She's by More Than Ready, but as you can see, there's an awful lot of unbridled song in the dam side that is really coming out as she struts her stuff here, walking along at Stone Street Yearlings. That's some beautiful speed indeed.
This week, the fastest horse of the week is brought to you by Nashville, one of those fast sires at Windstar Farm. They've got a lot of fast horses over there. We talk about life is good a lot of times. Hey, Nashville was pretty darn fast himself. If speed is the key to your breeding program, take a look at this horse. After all, he was a track record setter at Keeneland, 7 furlongs, 107.89. Later the same day, the Breeders' Cup Sprint was nearly a second slower than that. Nashville won a 6-furlong race at the fairgrounds, 108.61, the fastest at the time in 2 years at the fairgrounds. Saratoga, he was a rising star. He won by 11 lengths at 6.5 furlongs. Covered the first 6 furlongs, the internal fraction of that race, 107.92. Blazing fast, son of champion sprinter and sire of sires. Speightstown and Nashville's first weanlings will sell this November. Now, this is a perfect segue, right? Fastest horse of the week ran in Nashville, essentially. A.G. Bullet at Kentucky Downs in Franklin, Kentucky, in the Ladies Turf Sprint, run one race after, the very next race after the Nashville Derby. A.G. Bullet, trained by Richie Baltus, started off this winter and spring at Santa Anita, winning the Wishing Well and the Monrovia at 6.5 furlongs. Had a bad race at the Distaff Turf Mile at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby weekend on a good course that was kind of quirky at the time at Churchill Downs. Came back in July at Del Mar, won the Osanitas wire-to-wire at a mile. Then they shipped A.G. Bullet to Kentucky Downs, and all she did in the Ladies Turf Sprint, worth only $1.5 million, opened up 6 lengths at the top of that long stretch, won by 5 1/4 in a Beyer speed figure of 1:06. She'd run some fast races before. This was obviously the fastest, and that makes A.G. Bullet our fastest horse of the week.
Special guests on this week's Guest of the Week of the TDN Writers Room podcast, Shannon Arvin, the Keeneland president and CEO. Of course, big doings coming up just a couple days from now, the beginning of the September sale at Keeneland, and then the fall racing meet after that. Hi, Shannon, and thanks for joining us. And this is the biggest yearling marketplace of the year, make or break time for a lot of people in the industry. So what are the economic indicators you're seeing? They'll tell you about this year's sale and how it might come out.
Thank you all very much for having me. It's always fun to be on Writers Room with you all. The economic indicators so far are really good. We watch obviously closely the other yearling sales that precede ours, and we're thrilled to see how successful they were. Over the years, I have been told that the horse business follows the stock market. When I've actually looked at the statistics, that's really not true at all, which could be good or bad depending on the day and what it looks like on September 9th and 10th. But I think we've got a lot of excitement in the industry. This is always, as you said, kind of a stressful time for our breeders who are bringing their full stock to market for this massive yearling sale. But it's really exciting. And one of the best things about the September sale, as I've been around it, is that it's exciting from start to finish. You can find gems all the way through the sale, and you have a lot of prominent buyers that shop all the way through the sale, and it pays off for them. Ask Kenny McPeak and ask the Archangelo folks. 35,000. Even Midnight Bisou was an RNA at our September sale at 19,000. So that was a missed opportunity.
Absolutely. We all missed that one. But there are so many opportunities throughout the sale. And one thing that we've noticed the past few years before we actually dive into the sale is that Keeneland's been trying to be more innovative, and we've seen some music, and we've seen a bit more of the culinary, and we've seen people offering up champagne. Do you plan on keep on going that way? Because I know it's been very welcome, and it's been more like a fun boutique start to the beginning of a very long, exciting sale.
Absolutely. And we do the book one brunch where we have the music and the champagne, and this ought to be fun. This business is fun. It's obviously very serious and has significant economic implications, but so many people, especially principals, are there to enjoy it. So we want to create an atmosphere where they can do just that. And even beyond book one and book two, we have surprise and delights every afternoon, which aren't so much a surprise anymore because we do them so regularly. But it is a time when we want people to remember why we're here and what we're all in this for, and celebrate.
Shannon, obviously the highlight is book one. The word on the street is that it's very strong this year. Any particular highlights of book one or other areas of the sale that you want to touch upon?
I think book one and book two, it's important to recognize that what our sales team does by going out and inspecting 3,000 yearlings, 3,000 of the 4,200 yearlings, is really finding the best pedigrees, the best physicals to get in front of buyers the first 4 days of the sale before we take a break. And I think they've done a tremendous job this year. It's always tricky because, breeders and consigners get anxious about where they're placed. And what we want to do is set up the marketplace for everyone to be as successful as possible. And so book one and book two really highlight those stars.
Yeah, and there'll be plenty of stars to be had. One thing that we've noticed as well moving forward is that Keeneland's finally seemed to have got it right as far as book one, book two, book three, book four, and what days they're being held on. It seems like it's really started to work, and people have got used to it, especially with the day off in the middle.
We're so excited to hear you say that because we've worked really hard on it. And
I know.
When I got here, we kept trying new things and kept trying new formats. And, a lot of people say ideally you would want a 3-day book one and a break. But it's just what we concluded was what we really needed to do was provide the stability to say we are going to stick with this format. Every year somebody says, well, why don't we try it this way this year? And we've really been disciplined to say, no, the market needs to know what's going to happen. The market needs to know what to expect. So we're going to stick with this format consistently over a number of years. Now, after 5 years, if it wasn't working, of course, we'd look at changing. But it seems to be gaining traction, and people seem to be, I think horse people, we all tend to be creatures of habit, and we don't like change so much always. So I think this consistency really is helping to create that stability. People know what to expect.
Shannon, not necessarily linked to the September sale, but you are doing something new and innovative this year with your sales calendar. We've seen this happen in other jurisdictions like England right before Royal Ascot meet. And what a great idea. You're going to have a sale. Is it the day before the Breeders' Cup? Or
Actually, the Wednesday before the
Wednesday
Breeders' Cup,
before the
October
Breeders'
30th.
Cup. Okay. So the Wednesday before the Breeders' Cup, the idea being if someone wants to sell a piece of a Breeders' Cup horse, someone wants to buy a piece of a Breeders' Cup horse, come to Keeneland and get it all done. So, tell us how this evolved and what your expectations are for it.
We brainstorm a lot. The sales team sits around and says, what would help the market? What would help the breeders? What would be fun? And sales and racing clearly go hand in hand. So this seemed like a great opportunity to try something different. The concept is just as you said, that it's before the Breeders' Cup. Hopefully we'll have entries that are either in Breeders' Cup races or on the undercard, or even shares or breeding rights to exciting stallions you might expect to see there too. So we're really excited to try it. That it will be held in the paddock at Del Mar. And more than anything, again, it's going to be a really lovely, fun night and adding some excitement by having some horses sell. Obviously, it's so close to the Breeders' Cup that we won't have horses physically in the Del Mar paddock that night, but every buyer will have an opportunity to go inspect the horses where they're located. And I think it'll be something new and exciting. You can go from the sales ring to the track in a matter of 5 days.
And we've seen it work so well at Royal Ascot. People coming in and buying a leg of a horse just because they want to run at Royal Ascot. It gives people a chance, in a sense, to just get a piece of the action without having all the boring stuff before. They can just walk in onto the red carpet right away. So I think it's a terrific idea. Does it lead on to the November sale? Should somebody buy a horse? Can they turn around and sell the horse in November with you guys? What's the deal there?
Absolutely. Yes. And we've talked to several sellers about that who are interested in doing that. But it really does provide the opportunity for a lot of action in a consolidated period of time, which isn't always the case in our business, as you all know. So we're really excited about it. I think it's going to be fun to try, and I think it'll be a really exciting night and a great addition and enhancement to Breeders' Cup week. Get people out there a little bit earlier, and who doesn't want to spend an extra few days in Del Mar, right?
Shannon, there's several tracks across the country right now going through renovations, Pimlico, obviously Belmont, et cetera. You have had this ongoing project at Keeneland as well. Tell us where that things stand now with your renovation projects, and when it's all said and done, what people should expect.
So we are 9 months into construction. And if you haven't been on our grounds lately, you will notice a lot has changed when you come on the grounds, because the operations building it's under roof and starting really to look like a building, and the paddock building is as well. We had our offices, as you all may recall, right on the paddock. So while my office had a great view, it probably wasn't the best and highest use of that space, because we are so lucky at Keeneland to have a supply and demand issue. We sell out of our public tickets, in about 8 minutes. Wow. So we started brainstorming ways that we could offer more tickets and really unique experiences to the public. And so we initially tried to make our offices be in the same building, and then it quickly became clear we needed our offices in a different space so that we could have room for our whole team to be together, because right now we're kind of dispersed across the campus. But the paddock building is the really exciting star of the project. It'll give us about 1,300 more seats that we can sell to the public. It'll have 5 dining rooms, each one with kind of a unique experience. I think we have to evolve in the way we think that people enjoy sports. So we're really spending a lot of time thinking about that. My mother, for example, is very happy coming to Keeneland and sitting at a table with her friends all afternoon, and she may watch every race on the TV, but that's maybe not so exciting for your 18-year-old who's new to the sport. So we're going to have an opportunity. There's one room in particular where you don't have a table for the whole day. You get hors d'oeuvres and you can get drinks, and they're high tops, and you actually have access in that room to the north part of the paddock. So you actually will be able to go into the paddock to get close to the horses. All of the inspiration behind the project has been to get people close to the horse, because we really think that once we do that, we'll be able to capture more fans and just create a better experience. And it also is going to provide us a lot more flexibility with sales. you all have probably seen, we are kind of busting at the seams in our sales pavilion. So having this paddock building so close to the sales pavilion, there's a direct walkway. So we'll be able to have more spaces for people to sit while they're working, more places to offer celebrations, more places to serve a nice lunch and a glass of wine if that's what people want to do that day. So we're really excited about the project. It's going to be, the schedule is that it will all be wrapped up a year from now, which is hard to believe. So we're about to go through our second race meet being under construction.
Well, if you see a short blonde person moseying around there tomorrow morning, it's probably going to be me, just having a good nosy around. I
have a hard hat for you.
A hard hat? Give me a hard hat. Yeah, I've got a pretty hard head, so I'll probably be okay. I just can't still get my head around the fact that your tickets sell out in 8 minutes.
8 minutes to the public.
Wow, that is truly
people.
amazing.
We're doing it online now, which is one of the silver linings of COVID, that we got a better process for selling tickets. Right. But people sit in front of their computers when they go online, and I get a lot of calls saying either it worked so well this morning, or, oh, I'm so frustrated I didn't get the 12 seats that I was looking for. I got Wednesday instead of Saturday. So it is, we are so grateful. I would love for all racetracks across the country to sell out like that. And I think we only have an opportunity to do that if we create the experience at the track that makes people actually want to come be here.
Do you feel it helps Keeneland because it's so boutique? It's not like you're running for months on end. Is that one of the things, do you feel, not only just your racetrack, but racetracks across the country should try and aim for?
Without a doubt, it helps us. And I think it's different in each jurisdiction, and every track has different considerations and a different, horse population, different trainer base. For us, a lot of people have said, why don't you race more days? Why don't you do a summer meet? Which, remember, we did after COVID. We were very blessed by the weather. That could be a really hot meet otherwise. And we're open to looking at other times that might make sense. But for us, our 32 or 33 days a year gets people excited about it. It's such a part of the culture in Lexington in the spring and the fall that you have the race meets, and we're embraced by the business communities here and also the students. I mean, the students are out here all the time. And I think at UK, they end up remembering it as an important part of their college experience that the racetrack was so close. And it is definitely part of creating that environment where people want to come and spend their day.
Shannon, I'm just curious, what is your sellout point? How many tickets are you able to sell? And are you selling both admissions and seats, just admissions? What about that?
It's the seats that sell out in 8 minutes. The general admissions go. We are actually sold out on our big days, but we still have capacity on the not so big days. And as the time comes closer, we'll sometimes be in a position where we can gauge the fans and we can release more GA tickets. We encourage everybody to get their GA tickets in advance. We used to report our attendance every race day, and I remember I'd get 10 emails a day with the attendance updates. We notice all the scans, but we don't really report it anymore because we're not trying to pack in as many fans as possible. We really want it to be a good experience for the people that are here. So if you're in line for a hot dog, you can get a hot dog without waiting for 20 minutes. So that number, I would estimate it's about 22,000 that's comfortable.
It's still a lot on an average race day. I was flicking through Kentucky Downs because we've all been glued to that. And I came across a condition. It was an allowance race for 250,000, restricted to horses purchased from Keeneland. And I was like, wow. And of course it was oversubscribed, but I'm like, how did you guys come up with this? And I know you work closely with Kentucky Downs as well.
We do. Ron Winchell has been a great client for years. And since he has owned Kentucky Downs, he has really focused on trying to find ways to create fun experiences, which is obvious from his purses and just the way that they've run another very, very boutique meet.
Yes.
And so that was an idea that was generated, and we were happy. It was their idea, I will confess fully, and we were happy to do it, happy to sponsor it. It's been really fun, and our partnership has extended even beyond that. We brainstorm about things we can do during the Keeneland meet that might be enhanced from Kentucky Downs involvement. And I think that goes back to, we have this conversation about Kentucky being so strong right now. And I am grateful that Kentucky is as strong as it is. And certainly it has to do, there are a lot of reasons, one of which is the historical horse racing, which definitely provides a boost for us and lets us do a lot of these projects that we're doing and offer the competitive purses that we have. But I also firmly believe that for our business, you've got to have a healthy ecosystem. We want people from all over the world to come race at our racetrack because they want to win at Keeneland. It's certainly the purse money is part of it, but it's more than that. It's the experience. So to us, a healthy California is important. A healthy New York racing is important. Healthy Florida is important. Healthy Maryland is important. So that's something we do spend a lot of time focusing on. And we talked to Ron about too, ways that we can be helpful to racing as a whole, because I think with HISA, and you all know we've been very supportive of HISA from the beginning. And while they haven't gotten everything perfectly right, I'll be the first to admit, and Lisa Lazarus would be the first to admit, I don't think that we would have much of a future as a major sport without a national governing oversight. And I think that they have been very thoughtful when they have stubbed their toe to step back and say, oh, wait, maybe that didn't work so well. I hear what you're saying. We hadn't thought about that. Let's try it this way. I think we'd be hard pressed to find many federal regulators out there that would be so eager to really have the interest of the sport in mind. So I think HISA will help us as well to have that healthier ecosystem, certainly nationally.
Shannon, two changes to the fall racing stakes schedule. The Queen Elizabeth II Challenge, the purse has been raised to $750,000, and the Bryan Station, the purse for that race is raised to $600,000. Why those two races?
Gatewood Bell, who's our head of racing, is probably the most knowledgeable person I know about what makes a horseman think and what would make them want to go to certain races and point towards certain races. And those were races where he felt that the purse increase would work the best. He's very thoughtful in feeling like at some point more isn't more. You don't have to pay a $1.2 million purse. People want to come here because they want to win here. Let's be reasonable about what the purses are. Let's be reasonable about how much KTDF money we put into the purse, because again, you don't want somebody coming from New York with a New York bred to be surprised when the purse is actually, 2/3 of what he thought he was running for. So we think about all those things when we conclude what our purses will be. And Kentucky Downs has been helpful to us with those purse increases as well and been supportive of that.
Well, it's nice to see two separate entities actually working together. That's really, really nice to see. What are you most looking forward to over the course of the next few months?
Gosh, all of it. I'm ready to get started. I will tell you that. We, another construction project that we've been working on that we've been a little bit quieter about are some renovations to our sales pavilion that you all will see when you get here. There hadn't been any major, the pavilion was built in 1968, and there hadn't been really any major upgrades to the aesthetics of the sales pavilion. And we actually worked with one design firm who said, well, you should take the roof off and you should put a second level and you can have offices up there. And we said, okay, well, how much is that? And they said, oh, it's about 80 million. We thought, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we stepped back and we said, what do we love about the sales pavilion? What works? So we really tried to keep the integrity. When you walk in, you'll still feel like it's the same old sales pavilion that you've been in forever. But we've lightened some of the walls. We've updated the lighting. We've created an area in the back of the pavilion itself where there's some tables and chairs so buyers can sit and be comfortable as they bid, and really trying to draw that excitement into the arena. It used to be that you had to have a reservation to get a seat in there. And now, as you all have seen, when we sell a share in Flightline, it's really crowded. And otherwise, it's really hard to get people to come into the pavilion. They want to be out back. They want to be be in the corner where nobody can see them bidding. So we've made some changes that we think will make the sales pavilion more comfortable for people and bring them back into the arena. So we're excited to show people those changes and hope everybody will like those for sure.
Well, we want to thank Shannon Arvin, the CEO and president of Keeneland, for joining us here on the guest segment on the TDN Writers Room podcast. Shannon, it's going to be an exciting couple months with the sale and the fall meet. And I know you're pretty busy right now. So thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun. I really appreciate it.
Cheers.
See you all soon.
The PA Horse Breeders Association presents the new and improved Pennsylvania Stallion Series. 6 $100,000 stakes for PA-sired PA breds and parks. 2 6-furlong contests on PA Derby Day. The 2-year-olds then go 7 furlongs on December 30th. The last 2 races are in August 2025 for 3-year-olds. Then $50,000 in breeder bonuses go to the top 3 horses in the series. For more, go to PABred.com.
The TDN Writers Room also brought to you by the PHBA. If you're acronym challenged, that's the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. You should know that by now. They paid over $30 million in 2023 in Breeders Awards, Stallions Awards, PA bred stakes, hundreds of restricted races. In fact, they've paid an average of $28.5 million over the last decade. That's consistency. So if you want to be among the hundreds of owners and breeders that have taken advantage of all these lucrative awards, you can contact them. That's the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. That's them at info@pabred.com. That's a simple email address, or you can call them at 610, there's the number, 444-1050.
Well, Saratoga meet ended on Labor Day, wrapped up with a very interesting running of the Hopeful Stakes. The news out of Saratoga, it's seemingly never bad. They had a handle of, once again, 800 million, record attendance. Everything was pretty much kind of stagnant from last year. But, if the balloon is ever going to burst, we sure haven't seen it. Let's talk about the Hopeful. Chancellor McPatrick won it over by half length over Ferocious, trained by Chad Brown. I was interested in one of the quotes he gave to the Naira press department afterwards, saying, we can train all kinds of horses, meaning don't stereotype me as a turf only trainer. A hopeful winner hasn't won the Kentucky Derby, I believe, since Affirmed, to be honest. However long it has been, it's been a long, long time. This horse really looked good, and especially his running style. In a one-turn race for 2-year-olds, he was 9.5 lengths back in the first call, and then motored down the middle of the stretch, caught Ferocious, and is in good hands with Chad Brown. We may be seeing this horse. We may be talking a lot next year about Chancellor McPatrick. Zoe?
He was good. And in fairness to Chad, when I first got to Saratoga at the beginning of the meet, I, run into him all the time. I'm like, hey, who do you think your best horse is? Who's your best 2-year-old? And he's like, I've got a really nice McKinsey colt, because I like the McKinseys, but they're going to need a bit of time. And they do. They're big, growthy, scopy, lengthy looking horses. They're not going to come out running in April, much kind of like him. And I said, I've got this really nice McKinsey colt. And sure enough, watching him break his maiden was a delight to watch. He did everything wrong and then got to the wire first. And it was much the same in this race. I mean, if you watch the head on, he needs to learn how to get out the gate a little bit better. So he broke a little bit tardy, broke into the gate. Pratt lost an iron, which no one even noticed because he managed to get it back oh so quickly. And then him and Menti collided, and then he was last and ate all of that kickback and circled the field. It was a terrific race from him. Now, perhaps the disappointment for a lot of people was Ferocious, who may have gone off the favorite. He did go off the favorite because this horse was 9-2. So when he came to Ferocious with Irad Ortiz aboard him, that horse re-engaged. Irad, of course, was riding for the injured Javier Castellano, and he took off. So don't rest on your laurels if you dismiss Ferocious, because he ran such a game race to come back when he looked like he was beaten. The best horse that day was Chancellor McPatrick. The ride he got from Pratt, the fact he lost his iron at the start, managed to regroup, eat dirt, and do everything like a good horse. Those top 2 are 2 very nice horses.
Yeah, and they're kind of tied together in another way too. That's sort of interesting. Chancer McPatrick was purchased at Ocala this April, $725,000 by Flanagan Racing, and a lot of Chad Brown's horses at these sales are picked out by a bloodstock agent named Nick Salusto, who I know you know very well, Zoe. They actually tried to buy Ferocious, and they bid heavily on Ferocious, but ultimately
everybody tried to buy him. He was gorgeous.
They got outbid at the end by Ramiro Restrepo and his group, right, the Mage group, who wound up bidding $1.3 million to get Ferocious. And it was primarily because they lost the bidding on Ferocious that they then pivoted to Chancer McPatrick. And now, lo and behold, here we have the hopeful where Chancer McPatrick and Ferocious are teamed up against each other, and Chancer McPatrick gets the best of him. But, you know, a lot of good 2-year-olds we've seen at Saratoga. Some of them just, you know, recently broken their maidens. The way racing is right now in the United States, there'll be a lot more that will emerge this fall in California, probably for Baffert at Churchill Downs, Keeneland. So we're just beginning to dip our toes into the water of the 3-year-old division next year.
And props to John Kimmel too, because he was involved. And John is a trainer, but he's buying Sean Flanagan's horses. So big props to John Kimmel.
Well, the weekend began.
This is a water, by the way, just in case anyone heard that. I just want to throw it out there. This is a Waterloo sparkling water.
Yeah, sure.
That was a familiar sound if you've hung around Zoe, right?
It's a really good sound, but this is water, I promise you.
Well, the weekend at Saratoga began with the card on Saturday with the Grade 1 Spinaway Stakes. The story in there was with the Queen's MG. The horse sold for $3,500, I believe, before it got into the hands of Safi Joseph. Could she win all 3 of the 2-year-old filly stakes races at the meet? Something that hadn't been done, I believe, it was since 1987. She ran okay, didn't get the job done, but again, Immersive is the winner. And I'm totally guilty of redboarding here, but considering the odds on this horse for Brad Cox and Godolphin was a nice payoff, a nice win. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this horse come Breeders' Cup time.
Yeah, I mean, she was fine. I know the Cox Barn really do like her. Honestly, I think a lot of these fillies in there were hindered by the track conditions. It was a mess out there. It was absolutely raining sideways when the Spinaway was running. So I'm drawing a line through every single filly in that race. As far as MG is concerned, 2 tough races in a row. I think it was a lot to ask for her. I applaud, or maybe not applaud. I wonder why Dylan Davis stayed to ride her. I can understand why he stayed to ride her. He's 1-2 on her. He rode Parnack earlier on the card for West Point. But if I was Dylan Davis, I would have been riding in the Nashville Derby aboard my first Grade 1 winner. I would have definitely been riding Carson's Run that day. The Queen's MG, we'll see what she does throughout the rest of the year. I just thought it was a lot to ask for her to put 3 solid races together in a short span.
And she's still got something to prove, the Queen's MG, from a handicapping perspective. She was a 9-length winner in her race before in the Adirondack in an extremely hot-paced race when everything in that race just completely fell apart the last quarter of a mile. I mean, it's not very often at Saratoga you see a horse win by 9 lengths in a stakes race and get a 73 Beyer speed figure, which was a legitimate speed figure. I mean, I expected her to improve on that a lot coming back in the Spinaway. She didn't, obviously. Maybe the muddy track had something to do with it. Good effort by the runner-up, Quiet Side. Very strong effort for her. Looked like she was a winner in mid-stretch before Immersive ran her down. And one more note in here, the 3rd-place finisher, Sherbini. We heard a lot of talk last year in the aftermath of some of those highly publicized injuries at Saratoga about how Bobby Flay was kind of washing his hands of the thoroughbred business. He was selling his house in Saratoga, selling his bloodstock, getting out of the game. Sherbini is co-owned by Bobby Flay. So that's a very good note. People close to the game know that Flay didn't get completely out of thoroughbred racing. He just downsized a little bit. And it's nice to see Bobby back with a graded stakes contender as a 2-year-old filly moving forward.
And it looks like the top two may well have a rematch in the Alcibiades, I do believe, at Keeneland. So that should be good.
Guys, we talked about the weekend racing and we missed the biggest story of them all. Travis Kelce buys into a Team Valor horse, runs in the Toronto Cup up at Woodbine, didn't get the job done, didn't win, but the horse is named Swift. Where's the heck is my notes? Somebody help me here. Swift Delivery. Okay. So is this the start of something? Are the Swifties going to start storming the racetracks to watch Travis and then Taylor's horses run? Wouldn't that be fun?
Be awesome. Bring them on. Bring them on, I say. Randy's a big fan.
Sounds to me like a great marketing job by Barry Irwin of Team Valor to have a horse named Swift Delivery and bring in Travis Kelce as a co-owner. Good job, Barry.
Right. Bring them on. I think it's awesome. It is that time for the XBTV Work of the Week. And this week, it's the exciting Bob Baffert 2-year-old Getaway Car. Probably one of the best names in racing as far as I'm concerned. Getaway Car was purchased for $700,000 out of the Gainesway consignment at Keeneland September and has won each of his 2 starts, a maiden race at Del Mar in July and the Grade 3 Best Pal Stakes last time out. See him here working solo under Juan Hernandez in 59-3. Not sure you can go much easier than that, going 59 and change. Baffert said he's being pointed, of course, towards the September 8th Del Mar Futurity, where he will likely be the heavy favorite in there.
Be a smarter, better with XBTV. The best horses. With thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart with XBTV.
Well, racing action over the weekend included a Sunday card at Del Mar. In the second race that day, it looked like a race that would just come and go and you wouldn't pay much attention to it, but there was a pretty controversial DQ in that race. And Randy, I know you were the one that wanted to bring this up.
Yeah.
So give us the skinny on what happened at Del Mar.
It's a pretty nuanced situation. Going down the backstretch, Antonio Fresu was riding the 9-5 favorite named Seven Wonders and came over about a path or so. I want to say it was right before the half-mile pole. And interfered pretty severely, nearly dropped, actually, Sal Gonzalez on a horse named Fireman Dan, who happened to be the longest shot on the board at 30-1. Now, Seven Wonders goes on as the favorite to open up at the top of the stretch and win the race very emphatically by 3.5 lengths. Fireman Dan doesn't recover, finishes 6th in the race in an 8-horse field. There was a steward's inquiry immediately because it was a very easy incident to see on the backstretch. And Seven Wonders was disqualified in the race from 1st all the way down to 6th behind Fireman Dan. Now, this brings up something that I think is maybe not addressed enough in thoroughbred racing, and we don't see enough of. When I say it's nuanced, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, when you disqualify a horse, what it's supposed to be nowadays especially is stewards are supposed to look at a race like this and they're supposed to say, can we be confident that this impacted the result of this race? Okay. And yeah, you can say that it might have cost Fireman Dan a placing or two, maybe, probably. Okay. Seven Wonders was clearly the best horse in the race. It didn't impact the winner of the race at all. And Bill, I'm probably preaching to the choir here because as a horse player and a bettor, I'm guessing you would agree with this. There are situations, including this, in which stewards should leave the number alone. Okay. Mm-hmm. Don't disqualify the horse. Give the jock a 5-day suspension.
Right.
For careless riding. Don't punish the bettors because Antonio Fresu shifted in a lane and bothered the longest shot on the board in a situation that probably didn't have anything to do with the top 3 or top 4 in the race. But does he deserve punishment? Yes, obviously. I mean, he almost dropped Gonzalez. Give him days. But there's $1.5 million total that was bet involving this race on straight exacta trifecta as well as daily doubles, pick 3, pick 5. There's no need to punish those bettors, I think, in a situation like this. I don't know if Zoe, as a former rider, would agree or not.
I concur. And I bet on the horse that was DQ'd.
Uh-oh.
So I'm just going to leave it at that.
But Zoe,
give him a little holiday is all I could say. I'm with you. Give him a holiday.
Didn't you see another race over the weekend, Zoe? You thought it was?
I did. It wasn't quite the same thing. I just thought it was a really interesting DQ at Horseshoe Indy on the 29th of August. It was the 9th race. A horse coming down the rail, trained by Chris Jackson. Mikado, I think, was riding the horse. Bright Lady Day. Now, this horse looked like the horse had room on the rail to get through. Not much room at all. And there was a Brad Cox trainee just to the outside who seemed to come over under Fernando for Cox. Anyway, the horse got through on the rail. I don't know how. If I was a horse, I wouldn't have got through there. But the horse was halfway in. So you're either in or out, right? Horse gets in, gets through, and wins the race, probably by a head or a neck or something, and then gets DQ'd. So it's apples and oranges. I just thought it's not very often you see a horse actually get through on the rail, and it deserves watching, whether you agree with the DQ or you don't, because I agree that you could look either way at this situation.
In a case like Seven Wonders, stewards are obviously reluctant to leave a number up and then give a jockey days. I know it's kind of unconventional in American racing. I think it's done more overseas. I don't know if they're afraid that they'll be criticized for, if you give the jockey days, how come the number didn't come down? Or if maybe there's a fear that the rider will appeal the suspension and use the fact that the horse wasn't disqualified as evidence as to why he shouldn't get days. But in my opinion, it should be done a lot more often than it actually is done.
As a former rider, I can agree with that.
Well, speaking of riders, let's segue back to Saratoga, because we promised we'd talk more about Flavien Prat. And he was not leading rider at the meet. Irad Ortiz Jr. was, but he was the star of the meet. And when he came over to the East Coast and decided to, end his run as California's top rider, I thought he was making a mistake. I can't say that now, because not only is he caught on, I mean, he is on fire. He is riding great. And he set a record, with the most stakes wins ever during a Saratoga meet by a jockey. He won 18 stakes races, 14 of them were graded. Zoe, he's a superstar.
Oh, for sure. There's no question. We all knew he would do just fine going to Saratoga. I don't know what you've been watching, Bill, but there was no question that he would have fit right in with both the Ortiz brothers and everybody else, because he's a world-class rider. I actually did pull up his stats, because being out in Southern California, when he came over for a few winters for Wertheimer and Frey and galloped for Mandela primarily. 2009, he came over, was his first year. 1 ride, 0. 2010, he had 2 rides. I think the first one, 27 rides and 2 wins. One paid $100, one paid like 57. 2012, he came over, just rode 3. He only came for a couple of weeks. But it was really in 2014 that he came over and kind of caught people's attention. He won 7 races and hasn't looked back since. Winning, 2021 was the first year he won over 200 races, 246, 236, 22, 183 last year, and he's well on track to winning just as many as he wants to. And it's more the quality of the races he's winning and the graded stakes. As you mentioned, he smashed the record. And the way he's riding, like, sky's the limit right now for him. Ortiz is always going to be there. But it's just a question. The one thing that he wants more than anything is to win the Eclipse Award. And right now, he's definitely got it right in his sights. As far as graded stakes, he's never going to win as many races as Ortiz. That's just probably not going to happen. But he won the money title, which is all him and his agent, Brad Pegram, care about. So
and Flavien specifically said when he made the move from the West Coast that one of his primary goals, as you said, was to win the Eclipse Award as the outstanding jockey in America. And despite the fact that he was dominant in Southern California, He was killing it in Southern California, right? When you look at the previous winners, the most recent winners of the Eclipse Award, let's start with last year, right? Irad, and we'll go back. Irad, Joel Rosario. Irad. Jose Ortiz. Castellano. Ramon Dominguez. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 15 in a row that have been won by East Coast riders. Before that, Julian Leperoux. There's another one. Garrett Gomez in 2008. Zoe, I don't remember if 2008 was a year that he rode mainly in Southern California or if he was riding on the East Coast then.
I think he went backwards and forwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Garrett won it in 07 and 08. Before that, it was Prado, Johnny V, Jerry Bailey 4 years in a row, Chop, Gary Stevens in 98. Might have been the last jockey to win the Eclipse Award riding full-time in Southern California. So that's why Flavien made the move. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going to win the Eclipse Award this year right now. And I think it's deservedly so.
Well, you'd think Bill was voting. There's a distinct East Coast bias there.
Yeah, there is. No, what I meant by that was, and I didn't think he wouldn't be good enough to ride in New York, but when you own Southern California like he did, I think he took a big risk. I mean, he could have come in and easily been the 7th leading rider because of the Ortiz brothers, because of Johnny V, Castellano, Manny Franco, because there's such a strong riding colony. So I never thought for a minute that he wouldn't be successful. I just didn't think he would be this successful. Yeah. And I would advise him to stay in California, and I would have been wrong. So. And that's the first time I've been wrong. It won't be the last.
Let's give kudos to Brad Pegram, his agent, too, who's done an amazing job with booking mounts. It's obviously easier when you have a jockey like Flavien Prat, where people are, calling you up, knocking on your door all the time. But he's picked the right spots in so many different situations. And it's a great team right now, Flavien and Brad.
The other jockey I wanted to bring up that had just a remarkable meet was Dylan Davis. And he's been winning races for a long time. But in New York, he was one of those riders that was mainly getting his wins in the winter. When the big boys came back from Gulfstream, not too many people were giving him much of a chance. Boy, has he come around. He had 35 winners at this meet. That's only, when we talk about Pratt, who's a superstar on his way to the Hall of Fame, that's only 10 less than Pratt, or 10 fewer than Pratt. Dylan Davis, I love his whole family. The two daughters of Robbie Davis and one son all become jockeys. It's a cool story. And Dylan Davis, I think, is somebody to watch for as a star in the making.
Good kid, good rider, has really improved leaps and bounds. I think he won his first race in 2012 at Suffolk Downs. So it's 12 years in the making for Dylan Davis. He works hard. His agent is Mike Migliori, who's actually Richie Migliori's brother. So you're keeping it in that horse racing family. I think he won 36. He tied Tyler Gaffleone for third and had 3.5 million. But just terrific. And going into the meet, he was hoping to be in the top 5, right? So he winds up third or fourth. Last year, going into this meet, the highest he'd ever been was 9th in the standings with 18 wins. And to get 35 or 36 this year is truly remarkable. It's a testament to his work ethic more than anything. And, one thing that people forget about riders, and maybe not so much back in the good old days, but now, people have to like you. Like Flavien Prat's a likable guy. Dylan's a likable guy. He can come back and tell you something about a horse. There are a few riders that are simply just absolutely brilliant and can be assholes and people will still ride them. But the likability factor really is a big thing, and those two guys have it.
The TDN Writers Room, brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds, with the win by Misenchanted on Sunday for Dale Romans. West Point Thoroughbreds wrapped up its Saratoga meet with 5 winners. Not a bad haul for Saratoga for an owner. The highlights: the Grade 1 triumph by Carson's Run in the Saratoga Derby. Don't Look Back at All won the Grade 3 Caress Stakes. Both of those horses came back to run really well at Kentucky Downs also this past weekend. We told you Carson's Run finished second in the Nashville Derby, and Don't Look Back at All was second also in the ladies' turf sprint behind AG Bullet. West Point also had a debut 2-year-old winner at Del Mar on Sunday when Bullard rallied from last to draw away for trainer Michael McCarthy. West Point owns the Son of Gun Runner along in partnership with St. Elias Stable, Three Chimneys, and Michael Tala. To learn more about West Point and how you can get involved in all this frivolity, you can visit westpointtb.com.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
Well, that's a wrap on this week's show. I want to thank my partners, Zoe Cabin and Randy Moss, and I want to thank our guest of the week, Shannon Arvin from Keeneland. Also, the people that work so hard behind the scenes to make this show work, our producers, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Ali LaRocca. Guys, we'll see you next week.